everyone. May Allah bless you all for showing up. It's hot outside. Hopefully it stays cool inside, inshallah ta'ala. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد النبي العالمين. The last session we reached the point where the brothers come to the father and they inform the father of the false news of Yusuf alayhi salam being eaten by a wolf, and they tell the father, وَمَا أَنْتَ بِمُؤْمِنٍ لَنَا وَلَوْ كُنَّا صَادِقِينَ, that even if we're telling the truth, someone like you won't believe us because you won't believe what we're saying, not because it's false. It's a you problem. A lot of times we call this gaslighting, right? We make the other person feel like it's their fault that we don't believe them, or it's their fault that we don't accept them, or whatever it may be. So that's verse number 17. Verse number 18 is the father then goes ahead and asks for some proof, right? We spoke about the idea that he asked for the body so that they can perform janazah, and that's pretty much the last right someone has upon you is you can have a janazah and prayed upon that body, but there is no body because obviously they didn't kill the kid. They simply put him inside of a well. And then the father says to them, well, can you bring me like his clothes that he was wearing, a shirt, so I can smell and enjoy his fragrance. When someone passes away, anything that you can have of them helps you connect with them, whether it's a shirt, an old car, a phone, whatever it is that can be like a reminder of that person. So he says, well, can you at least bring me his shirt so I can hold his shirt and smell his fragrance and be able to just find some solace and comfort through that? The brothers, not thinking it through, obviously when your mind is so fixated on an outcome, you don't really think about the process, right? You're so committed to making sure that that outcome that you have drawn is completed, right? So if that means I don't have a plan, if that means you don't ask yourself all the questions before you do what you're supposed to do, this is why muhasaba and muraqaba is so important, meaning you ask yourself the questions. We talk about إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, that all deeds are based upon intention, but sometimes you can only know the intention when you ask yourself the questions that need to be asked, right? Like the niyyah is not a default. You ask yourself the questions of, why am I doing this? What's the purpose behind it? So he goes ahead, he asks for the shirt, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, وَجَاءُوا عَلَىٰ قَمِيصِهِ بِدَمٍ كَذِبٍ. They go ahead and take a random shirt, and they slaughter a calf or a goat, and they put the shirt in that blood. Bidamin, Allah says, bidamin kadhib, right? The actual word, which would be more accurate, would be bidamin makdhub, blood that is falsified, blood that is fake. But the word that Allah used for a specific reason is bidamin kadhib. Kadhib bima'na kadhib, bima'na kadhib. Kadhib means that the blood itself was as if the blood itself was lying. Meaning it was such a clear, it was so clearly planted that it was as if the blood was telling you that it was fake, right? Rather than bidamin makdhub, which would mean that the blood has been planted. Bidamin kadhib means that it was as if the blood was telling you that it's lying because of how clear and blatantly false the blood was. So they bring this shirt, right, because they need something, and they put this shirt in the blood, and they go ahead and present it to the father. And when the father sees the shirt, the first thing the father, he grabs the shirt, and in the narration of Qurtubi, it mentions that he actually holds the shirt and he starts smelling it, and then he starts examining the shirt, and he looks at the sons and he says this is pretty interesting, right? مَا رَأَيْتُ الذِّئْبَ أَحْكَمَ مِنْ هَذَا. I've never seen a wolf more intelligent than this one, because you told me that the wolf tore my son apart, ate his body, and therefore we don't have his body to perform janazah. But then somehow the shirt doesn't have a single tear in it. There is no sign of his body being torn through the shirt. So how is it possible that the shirt is not torn? And this is when he said, بَلْ أَنْتُمْ كَذَبْتُمْ. Rather, you all are lying, right? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how intelligent you are, a lie does get exposed from one way or the other. And this is why the believer, al-mu'minu la yakdhib, a believer doesn't lie, regardless of how challenging the situation is, or regardless of what mistakes that they have committed to put themselves in that situation. Lying will never solve it, right? Lying will simply cause a deeper hole for us to have to dig ourselves out of, especially when it comes to relationships, right? They obviously they're committed to this. They had the plan made out, but ultimately the truth always comes out. قُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقُّ وَزَهَقَ الْبَاطِلُ. Right? When the truth comes, falsehood becomes exposed. And the person who is lying is naturally very insecure. They're always worried that the truth will come out. This is how the munafiqun live their life. يَحْسَبُونَ كُلَّ صَيْحَةٍ عَلَيْهِمْ. They're always worried that the truth will come out, that they're not true believers, that they're actually just fronting and acting as if they are believers. So they thought they had their bases covered, like sometimes we do when we end up, presenting ourselves or getting caught up in a lie. We think that we're good, but ultimately Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's promises that the truth will be exposed. This is why the day of judgment is Yawm al-Taghabun, Yawm al-Furqan. It's the day of it's the day of the truth being exposed, right? It's the day of the truth becoming the voice, and falsehood being exposed to everyone. So they come with this shirt, and as they present it to the father says what he says, that you are lying. The sons again say, no, we're not. I know you won't believe us even if we're telling the truth. The father then responds to them by saying, قَالَ بَلْ سَوَّلَتْ لَكُمْ أَنفُسُكُم amra. قَالَ بَلْ سَوَّلَتْ لَكُمْ أَنفُسُكُم amra. He says, no, rather you all have sawwalat in Arabic, the word that is used in this ayah. Sawwalat means zayyanat. The word sawwala means to beautify. It means to decorate. So what he is saying to his sons is, the truth is not that you killed him. The truth is not that he was eaten by a wolf. Rather, sawwalat lakum anfusukum amra. You have in your mind beautified that idea to the point that you believe it. Sawwalat. This is a key word for us. It's a key part of this story of how they got rid of Yusuf, alayhi salam. The idea of sawwala is that you start believing in an idea, and you start believing in something that you have in your mind to the point that you believe it's the best thing that you should do. Sawwalat lakum anfusukum. But the source of that is just your own desires. Sometimes a person will say, this is the best thing that we should do. This is the way that we should react to this situation. This is the way that I should respond to a conflict. Sawwalat lakum. And if you ask yourself, why is that the best way? Why should I deal with my father in that manner? Why should I respond to a person who spoke to me disrespectfully in that manner? سَوَّلَتْ لَكُمْ أَنفُسُكُمْ أَمْرًا. It's because you beautified that idea in your own mind, right? Especially in today's time where we don't really have, it's not normal to seek counsel for normal things, for day-to-day things. We seek counsel for significant and major decisions in our life. But normal decisions, we don't seek counsel. We rely upon our own intellect, and we rely upon what we think is better for us. That's sawwalat. You just make that decision because you think it's better. In the story of Musa alayhi salam, he went for those days to receive, the revelation for 40 days. And in that time, there was a man by the name of Samiri. Samiri was a person who was a part of the ummah of Musa. He was a believer. He went ahead, a famous story that many of you have heard. He went ahead and took this cow, which was like a gold cow, and blew inside of this cow dirt, right? And when he blew this dirt, or rather when he threw this dirt on this unique gold cow, the dirt that he got they say that it was dirt that he picked up from the footsteps of Jibreel alayhi salam. Right? So it was like sacred dirt. When he threw it on this cow, the cow started making these noises. And then he told everyone, look, these noises the cow is making, a cow can't make these noises, and the cow is gold. This is because this is your God. And he started to convince Bani Israel after they just saw Fir'aun drown. Like, this is after they saw Fir'aun and his army drown. So the miracle has already taken place, right? It's not because there was a lack of proof. It's not because there's a lack of spirituality that I still commit that mistake, right? There's a weakness in other aspects of my conviction. Someone just comes back from Hajj, or someone just is in the month of Ramadan, and I'm still committing a certain mistake. It's not because there's something lacking in regards to spirituality or something lacking in regards to proof. There's enough proof that what I'm doing is wrong. There's enough proof that what I'm doing is haram. It's a weakness of sawwalat. In my mind, I have convinced myself that that's the only thing I should be doing. I have convinced myself that the only way out of this is to backbite about someone. Sawwalat. So he does this whole he makes his whole cow start doing these weird noises. Bani Israel, some of them, despite the fact that they just saw the miracle, they start worshiping the cow. Like, how absurd does that sound? That you worship cows. I know we have people, in some countries that do these weird things, but it's very absurd that you're worshiping the cow. And when Musa alayhi salam returns, and he says to Samiri, long story short, he says, what prompted you to do this? What was your motivation behind this? What was your rationale and reasoning behind this? And his response was, sawwalatni nafsi. The thought was something that it was a beautiful thought in my head. It was a beautiful thought in my head. In our terms, in our terminology, what that means is you felt like doing it. Sawwalat lakum anfusukum amra means you felt like doing it. Well, all of that, what you're saying about Yusuf being eaten by a wolf, that's all a lie. You just felt like doing something. You felt like this was the right thing to do. And sometimes it happens, Ibn Qayyim rahmatullah alayhi says that the idea of muhasaba is when you do something, you're able to ask yourself, why did I do that for? Why did I say that for? And then identify for yourself whether or not your answer makes sense. It's very easy just to passively get past your own actions. But we're very critical of when we see other people's actions, other people's words, other people's statements. Why did that person say that? Why did they do that? But how about myself? Sawwalatni nafsi. The idea of just do it. You know how Nike's slogan is, just do it because you feel like it, right? Just because you feel like it doesn't mean that you're supposed to be doing it. If we go based on feelings, then we are simply animals, right? This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the three different barriers before we make a decision. He's given us our heart, which is our emotional side. He's given us our mind, and He's given us revelation. All three, our mind, our heart, and wahi. And wahi dominates both of those, right? So the father says to them what we experience on a daily basis. Sawwalat lakum anfusukum amra. This a matter in your mind was a beautiful thought in your mind. You know, sometimes we do something, and after we do, I thought it played out better in my head, right? It played out better in my head. That's what he's saying to them. And you played this out in your head, and you convinced yourself that it was a good thing to do. And now you have to back it up by just lying. This is for us as well, that we don't want to fall into the situation of sawwalat, zayyanat. We beautify a thought in our head on our own. No, we ask people, is this the right thing to do? Is this the manner that I should be dealing with this situation? So he tells himself, this is how we know that Yaqub knew they were lying. This is how we know that Yaqub knew that they were lying because of the shirt. The shirt was the proof that the brothers were lying. The shirt comes up 3 times in the story, right? It's the symbolism of the shirt is fairly heavy in the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. The first time is here, where the father asked for a shirt. The second time is when the shirt was ripped from the back as he was trying to run away from the room. And the third time is when he sent the shirt to his father to return his eyesight. And each time it comes, there are lessons around this. So we'll speak about it when it comes the second 2 times as well. But over here, the reason why it came is simply to give us a reason to make it clear to us as the reader that Yaqub knew they were lying. Meaning that he understood that Yusuf was alive. That much was clear to him. He didn't know anything else. But the fact that Yusuf was alive was clear to him. And why this is important is because if he knew Yusuf was dead, then he really can't make dua for him to come back, right? But his whole life he spent making dua to Allah to return Yusuf to him. But if it was clear to him that Yusuf had passed away, then we're not allowed to ask for someone that has already passed away to come back to life. So it was clear to him that Yusuf had not passed away. There are only two types of du'as that you can't keep asking for, right? Two types of du'as that you're not allowed to be stubborn on. Everything else, you can be stubborn as long as you want, right? One of the du'as is something that is already set, right? It's a qadari matter. It's already set. For example, like someone who's like 25 years old asking Allah to make them taller. It's like, bro, like this is it, man. Like ain't nothing gonna change now. This, like it's not gonna happen. No matter how much dua you make, it's a qadri matter. Your height is set, right? Or someone asking Allah to bring someone back to life, or these are set things, right? But you can make dua for anything else. Oh Allah, like for example, this person is sick, give them shifa, no problem. The second thing you can't make dua for, in a manner that you're stubborn on, is a dua that will harm someone else, right? So for example, there is someone gets married, right? And that person is married to the person that you wanted to marry, for example. Now you can't ask Allah, please get me married to that person, because that would mean that what you're trying to do is get the other person broken up from that individual. So you're not saying that, you're like, I don't care about them, but I want to marry this person. But ultimately that means you're going to harm someone else, right? So harming someone through dua is also impermissible. Nonetheless, he says, after this point, when it's clear to him that they're lying, he says, فَصَبْرٌ jamīl, a beautiful patience. And the entire story of Yusuf alayhi salam, one of the most common words are sabrun jamīl, a beautiful patience, right? And if we can understand what sabrun jamīl means, we'll be able to deal with challenges that come our way in any shape, any way, or any form. Sabrun jamīl has two main components, right? Sabrun jamīl has two main components. And it's jamīl, because sabr in itself may not be enough for us. A person can be patient, but not in a manner of jamīl. For example, a person can host you and be your host, but not in a jamīl manner. They're still your host. Someone can give you, the barista can give you coffee, but not in a manner of jamīl, where it's beautifully being done. It's being done with grace. Allah in the Quran uses the adjective of jamīl 3 different times. Jamīl as an adjective. The first time he uses it, or rather, I won't go in order. The 3 times amongst the 3 that he uses is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَاصْفَحِ الصَّفْحَ الْجَمِيلِ. فَاصْفَحِ الصَّفْحَ الْجَمِيلِ. Which means at a point of conflict, when you have a conflict with someone, safha means to turn the page. Just turn the page. But do it in a beautiful manner. Meaning that if you're going to turn the page, don't make the person feel like crap about it. Like, don't tell them that you're going to forgive them, but at the same time, make them feel inferior to you. And sometimes forgiving the person, sometimes we forgive the person, but we also humiliate the person. The whole purpose of forgiving them is to actually empower them and to give them a sense of self-respect and dignity that I've forgiven you. It's okay. You can continue what you were doing. So فَاصْفَحِ الصَّفْحَ الْجَمِيلِ means turn the page in a manner that person, it doesn't break the person. We forgive the person, but we break the individual. What's the point of forgiving them then? So safh al-jamīl means to turn the page in a manner that is beautiful, that the person doesn't feel affected by us, that we're not a burden upon them. The second time Allah uses it is وَهْجُرْهُمْ هَجْرًا جَمِيلًا. وَهْجُرْهُمْ هَجْرًا جَمِيلًا. That at a point of conflict, sometimes there is no reconciliation. It's possible that sometimes a conflict is such that you can't reconcile. There is no reconciliation, right? We go our own ways. The word that is used for is hajr. It comes from hijra. Hijra means to migrate, right? Like the hijra is called the migration. So Allah says sometimes when you get into a conflict or a dispute, there is no reconciliation that is available, even when you tried everything, but it's not there. And at that point, go your own ways, but jamīl, in a beautiful way. How often do we see like the separation or the breakup wasn't the issue, but it's the way that they broke up. It's the way the divorce happened. The divorce wasn't the issue if they did it amicably. The issue was not the fact that they separated and when they went their own ways. It's how they did it. Because ultimately there will be times in life that we have to go our own ways. So Allah is telling us that I know the reality of human beings, that not everything will be roses and flowers. When you do go your own way, do it with the jamīl. Do it in a manner that doesn't break the other person. Do it in a manner that doesn't make the person feel humiliated. That's the second time. The third time is sabrun jamīl. The third option you have at the point of conflict. The first option at the point of conflict is to turn the page. The second option at the point of conflict is to leave the person or leave the situation, whichever one it is. The third point that you have, or the third option you have at the point of conflict, is to just remain patient in that situation. That you haven't turned the page yet. Yaqub alayhi salam did not turn the page. He was still waiting for some type of clarity on Yusuf. He also didn't leave his sons. So he did the third one, which is sabrun jamīl, just waited, right? In a manner that is beautiful. So sabrun jamīl, it's not just sabr. Sabrun jamīl is that we don't become bitter to Allah. We don't become bitter with the people of Allah. It happens very often that when Allah tests us, or Allah throws a challenge our way, we become bitter with Allah. Right? Ultimately, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put us in that situation because He believes that we can handle it. If I'm in that situation, إِعْطَاؤُهُ رَحْمَةٌ وَأَخْذُهُ حِكْمَةٌ. His giving is His mercy and His love, and His giving is a form of His love and mercy, and His taking is a form of His wisdom. The Prophet taught us, عَجَبًا لِأَمْرِ الْمُؤْمِنِ, how beautiful is the affair of the believer. فَإِنَّ أَمْرَهُ كُلَّهُ لَهُ خَيْرٌ. Every situation that this believer is in is actually better for them. It's good for them. لَا يُكَلِّفُ اللَّهُ نَفْسًا إِلَّا وُسْعَهَا. Allah does not place us in a situation, in a space where we don't have the capacity to deal with it, the mental capacity, the physical capacity, and the willpower. Wherever He's placed us is because He believes that we can deal with it. لَا يُكَلِّفُ اللَّهُ نَفْسًا إِلَّا وُسْعَهَا. So when He says, وَأَخْذُ, like the believer's affair is always beautiful. In asabatu darra sabr. If a calamity afflicts him, they remain patient, Allah rewards them for it. And if a moment of ease comes to them and they're grateful, Allah gives them more from it. Sabrun jamīl is that we don't become bitter with Allah. The Prophet taught us, لَا تَسُبُّ الدَّهْرِ. Don't curse that time. Don't curse that time. That I hate this time, I hate this day. We hear people saying these things all the time. I hate this day, man. I hate this week. I hate this month. I hate this year. لَا تَسُبُّ الدَّهْرِ. That is a blessing. People would have wished to have that day that you have. People would have wished to have the opportunity to wake up in the morning with their family and loved ones. لَا تَسُبُّ الدَّهْرِ وَأَنَا الدَّهْرِ. Allah says, I am time. I am time. I am the present. Allah doesn't live in the past and the future. Allah is always in the present. He's omnipresent. So the situation that He put me in, if I become bitter and I'm saying that I'm patient, that shaitan is victorious. To become bitter with Allah is ultimately losing hope in our own situation. Can't become bitter. أَحْسِنُ الظَّنَّ بِاللَّهِ. And it's easy enough to say, but it's for people that are experiencing difficulty, it's very hard not to become bitter with Allah. And it's okay if we do feel it. It's like any other sin. We have to learn how to deal with it. It's okay if we feel it. There will be times that you feel bitter, 100%. If we don't feel bitter, that means we're like prophets and angels. There will be times that we feel bitter with our situation with Allah, right? We have this back and forth with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's okay. As long as ultimately we don't let that state become the reality for us. You have many people who, after going through a difficulty, their relationship with Allah turns for the opposite, or turns worse, because they actually believe that Allah put them in that situation. Allah hates them. Allah doesn't hate us. Right? If Allah didn't love us, He wouldn't have created us. The default state is Allah loves us. Right? And the reality of life is that love is displayed in different ways. Even your own parents' love is shown in different ways. Even your own parents' love is shown in different ways. A child who is 6, 7 years old, when the parents drop them off somewhere, and the father or the mother says that this is because I love you, the kid doesn't understand it. The kid's like, why are you dropping me off in the boarding school when I'm 9 years old? Right? I went to boarding school when I was 9 years old. And your father and mother are saying, no, we love you. What do you mean you love me? It doesn't seem like you love me. You're leaving me in the middle of a jungle, right? Alone. That's not love. But ultimately, as a person matures, we're able to see that was also a form of love. So sabrun jamīl is to be able to hold yourself back in that moment and know that this is not personal from Allah. For Allah to be personal means that we're someone special. We're not that special. And I mean that in the most softest way. We're not that big of a deal. Allah's like cornering us out. Like, I want to deal with Zayd specifically in this manner. We're not that big of a deal, right? We're not that significant in the sense that Allah's cornering us, Allah's picking on us. Everyone's situation is different. Everyone has different challenges. So the first meaning of sabrun jamīl is la shikwa illa lillah. The first meaning of sabrun jamīl, a beautiful patience, is that we complain only to Allah. Complaining about Allah is a major sin. Complaining to Allah is the greatest source of spiritual strength. Being vulnerable in front of people is weakness. Being vulnerable in front of Allah is strength. Being vulnerable in front of people is a form of, sometimes, of course, in front of the right people is very good. We should. But being vulnerable in front of the world is not something that we want. Al-mu'min al-qawi, we're strong. How can a person be weak when they have al-qawi on their side? How can a sister or brother be weak when Allah is on their side? Regardless of who's not with them. Right? So being vulnerable in front of Allah is a sign that we trust Allah. People speak to, we like to air out how we feel with people who we trust and love. Well, do we not love Allah? Do we not trust Allah? And we know this. That you can only build a relationship with someone when you share those moments with them. Like when you share that heartache with someone from your inner circle, that strengthens the relationship. But if we don't share these things with Allah, then how is that going to strengthen the relationship? Right? Every night there should be a conversation that I have with Allah. Ya Allah, I had a rough day, Ya Rabbs. I had a rough day. My father's upset with me. My car died in the road. Right? It was a hot day. I had a rough day. Ya Allah, I need you. And then the opposite is true as well. Ya Allah, I had a great day because of you. You allowed me to leave my house and come back home healthy. You allowed me to have these blessings within my life, despite what I'm seeing on all of our feeds on Instagram. Sabrun jamīl is to complain to Allah. When the Prophet ﷺ was dealt with in the manner that he was dealt with in Ta'if, he said, Allahumma inni ashku ilayka du'fa quwwati. Wallah, I complain to you. I complain to you. A believer is not distinguishable because of their situations. A believer is distinguishable because of their responses. The response that I have to the situation that I am in allows my faith to be redefined for myself. Forget anyone else. I know I'm a believer. And it's something that happens as muscle memory. When the Prophet ﷺ saw that lady crying on the grave, and he said to her, Isbiri, be patient. And she looked back and said, you don't know what I'm dealing with? And later on, obviously, she found out that the man that came and spoke to her was the Prophet ﷺ, and she felt remorse, and she came to the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, I didn't know it was you. The Prophet said, look, man, it's all good. But إِنَّمَا الصَّبْرُ عِنْدَ صَدْمَةِ الْأُولَى. Patience is shown at the face of conflict. At the face of conflict. Right? In that moment, la shikwa illa lillah. I complain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I have that moment of vulnerability with Allah. Only Allah can do. Only Allah has the power of fixing it anyways. No one else does. So Yaqub alayhi salam could have done a lot over here. He could have forced his kids. He could have gotten detectives. He could have pushed them, pulled them. He could have done more. Sometimes you think to yourself that why did he not do more? Why did he not do more? Ultimately, that's what sabrun jamīl is to rely on Allah at this point. Right? Anything more is beyond my scope. So la shikwa illa lillah. It's very easy for us on social media or even within our friend circles to seem like negative people, to come off as negative people when it comes to our lives, our day, our family, our relationships, our deen. Yeah, we have to have positive energy about Allah. Ahsinu dhanna billah. The more positive we are about Allah, the more we are able to deal with the situations that Allah puts us in. Having that positive assumption of Allah is what allows us to deal with that low that we have in our life, because we know Allah still loves us in that moment. When a person is always negative towards people, even the good that they give them, they're skeptical about why it happened. If you have a negative energy towards someone and they buy you something, you're like, oh, well, maybe it's because they backbit about me. That's why they're buying me a gift. That's how it works. This is why the Prophet was always a positive person. He carried himself with such positivity, i.e. he was always smiling. He was always smiling. The Prophet did not wear his emotions. People always ask, like, should I be someone that wears my emotions on my sleeves? Yes, you shouldn't mask your emotions because that's also very, it's harmful. But the Prophet did not wear his pain on his sleeves. If he wore his pain on his sleeves, he wouldn't be able to bring joy to anyone because of how much pain he was hoarding in his heart. La shakwa illa lillah. We complain to Allah. The greatest sunnah of the prophets was to complain to Allah. The entire surah of Surah Nuh, that entire surah is Nuh alayhi salam complaining to Allah. Ya Allah, I've done everything I can, man. These guys don't listen to me. Complain to Allah. That's the first quality of sabrun jamīl. Being people that are positive in their understanding of why Allah put them in that situation. Don't curse at time. Don't curse at the situation that you're in. Don't curse at the people. Don't curse at even the factors around you. It was because of my car that this happened. It was because of my degree that this happened. La shakwa illa lillah. I complain to Allah. Right? This is why later on in the story he says, إِنَّمَا أَشْكُو بَثِّي وَحُزْنِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. For Allah, I only complain to you. The second quality of sabrun jamīl, two qualities, right? The second quality is that the tongue will not say anything that brings Allah's displeasure. The hardest part when something happens to us, you lose a loved one or you're challenged, the hardest part is to not let the tongue say what the heart is saying. Very difficult because the heart will be saying a lot. The heart is going to be the heart, and that's why we're blessed that Allah is not holding us accountable for our thoughts. Because if we were held accountable for our thoughts, if what the heart was experiencing, there would be no one that would be sabr. Right? The Prophet ﷺ, when he lost his son Ibrahim, he said, Al-qalbu yahzan, like the heart is experiencing great pain. When you deal with something, your heart feels pain and your heart starts thinking a certain way, whatever it is, at that moment, don't let the tongue translate it. وَلَا نَقُولُ إِلَّا مَا يَرْضَى بِهِ رَبُّنَا. I will not say except for that which brings Allah's pleasure. I won't say it. I know I'm feeling something, but I won't say it. So the second quality of sabrun jamīl is to be able to get a grasp of your tongue at the height of emotions, which is extremely difficult. Sometimes when someone says something to you when they're angry or when they're upset, they later on ask for an apology and say, well, I apologize. I was very upset. That's why I said it. That's what sabrun jamīl is to be able to control my tongue at that point. وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ is to be able to swallow my anger at the height of anger. وَاللَّهُ الْمُسْتَعَانُ عَلَى مَا تَصِفُونَ. And Allah, he says to his sons, that Allah is the ultimate helper from that which you are describing. Whatever you just described to me, I can't do anything about it. Allah will help me. Wallahu al-musta'an. Like for example, in Surah Fatiha we say, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ. That at this point, Allah is going to help me. I did what I could. I asked for the shirt. I pressed you about the truth. You were committed to your lie. Whatever. Allahu al-musta'anu ala ma tasifun. He doesn't say, Wallahu al-musta'anu, Allah is going to be helping us in regards to the truth or in regards to the death of Yusuf. He just says, Allah is going to help me in regards to what you're describing. Whatever you describe to me, whatever you describe, Allah is going to take care of it. Allah will help me. How can a person at such a point still have trust in Allah? At a point of someone saying that their son has been killed, still turn back and say, Allahu al-musta'an. Allah is going to take care of this. A person can only have this level of conviction when they've already built a relationship with Allah prior to that moment. Right? When they built a relationship with Allah prior to that moment. This is why 5 times salat, our normal daily worship, it's there to be an insurance policy when we deal with these situations. Or else there's no way a person is going to be able to turn back and say, Allah will take care of me, if they don't already have a relationship with Allah. Right? So, Wallahu al-musta'anu ala ma tasifun. Allah will be the helper of that which you are describing. I can't do anything else. So, we have to realize sometimes in life, the reality is that there is nothing else that I can do. There is nothing else that I can do. Right? I've done i'qal wa tawakkal. I've done everything I can do. I've tried my best. I've used all the resources around me. I have spoken to people who can help me, but I still don't have a job. I still am not married. Still don't have children. I still don't have that blessing that everyone else has. Wallahu al-musta'an. It's all good. Allah is going to help me. The same one who took care of Yusuf and Yaqub is going to take care of me. Why is it so that every single day, 17 times a day, we say, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ? Oh Allah, we seek our help from you. We rely on you. Reliance upon, يَا حَيُّ يَا قَيُّومُ بِرَحْمَتِكَ نَسْتَغِيثُ أَصْلِحْ لَنَا شَأْنَنَا كُلَّ وَلَا تَكِلْنَا إِلَىٰ أَنفُسِنَا طَرْفَةَ عَيْنٍ. Such a beautiful dua the Prophet taught Sahaba. Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum. O the one who is always living and always dominant. بِرَحْمَتِكَ نَسْتَغِيثُ. We seek help through your mercy. أَصْلِحْ لَنَا شَأْنَنَا كُلَّ. Rectify and take care of all of my affairs. Take care of all of my affairs. وَلَا تَكِلْنَا وَلَا تَكِلْنِي إِلَىٰ وَلَا تَكِلْنَا إِلَىٰ أَنفُسِنَا طَرْفَةَ عَيْنٍ. And do not leave me to myself for even a blink of an eye. Meaning, do not let me be alone in any situation without you, even for a blink of an eye. I can't do it. Wallahu al-musta'an wa ala ma tasifun. Oh Allah, oh my sons, you thought about this act, you beautified it in your mind. I have sabrun jamīl. In that moment, jamīl. I still have good character towards people. I don't let my situation allow me to have bad character. I don't let my situation allow me to become bitter towards Allah and towards the people who are closest to me. I don't displace character towards people who love me because of a situation that I am in. That's sabrun jamīl. Wallahu al-musta'an. Allah will help me in regards to what you described. The story continues where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is where the story of losing Yusuf takes place. وَجَاءَتْ سَيَّارَةٌ فَأَرْسَلُوا وَارِدَهُمْ فَأَدْلَىٰ دَلْوَى. This well was in the far outskirts of the city, so the travelers came by. سَيَّارَةٌ means a caravan. A caravan came by, and as they were traveling, فَأَرْسَلُوا وَارِدَهُمْ, they sent their water boy, فَأَدْلَىٰ دَلْوَى. So they sent someone to get water and fetch water for them. And as this person went, أَدْلَىٰ دَلْوَى, he puts his bucket down in the well, his own bucket. This also shows you that this well was not a normal well. A normal well would have its own bucket. This is a well that didn't even have a bucket, meaning that it was not for daily use. It was for travelers. He goes ahead and puts his own bucket, and as he puts his bucket down, Yusuf alayhi salam, seeing this, he latches on it, and he is pulled up. This is where we learn that if Allah sends us a bucket, we grab it. Right? We're not gonna, if Allah gives me an opening, I'm gonna use that opening. I'm not gonna sit there and say, no, I'm gonna wait for something else to happen. No, Allah sent me that opening. I want to pursue that. If Allah gave me an opportunity that is supposed to help me in my situation, I won't simply sit back and say, no, Allah's gonna take care of it. I don't have to do anything. No, we do. The Prophet was not victorious in the battle of the trench because he sat there. They dug the trench. They dug the trench and then Allah sent the wind. The Prophet was not successful in Badr because he simply made dua. No, he went out in the battlefield and stood face to face with the enemies. And then Allah sent the angels. We want the angels, but we don't want to make the step towards our own effort. We want like the rih and the wind to come, but we don't want to change our own life. Right? Ultimately, my relationship with Allah is what brings the miracles of Allah. So the idea that he saw the bucket and he grabbed it. For every one of you in our own life, there'll be a different bucket. And we have to use it. We have to be able to use the asbab that Allah has given us around us. And we don't rely on them. We only rely upon Allah, but we do use them. Imagine if Yusuf was there like, yeah, it's all good, man. Allah's going to send me like Jibreel again. Then Jibreel alayhi salam came to me the first time, he's going to come back to me. No, the bucket is there. I'm going to grab the bucket. I'm going to use it. And as he's pulled out, the man says, Ya Bushra hada ghulam. Ya Bushra means, oh, glad tidings. Like it's like saying, oh my, in our terminology, in our lingo, Ya Bushra is like saying, oh my God. Like, oh my. Hada ghulam. Hada ghulam means such a beautiful boy. He was in the well. He was in this well for between 3 to 7 days, they say. And in the time that he was in the well, every single day his eldest brother would come bring him food. Yehuda. Every day he would bring him food. And he would make sure that he's okay. And the reason why he knew that Yusuf was taken out of the well is because one day he went there and there was no one there to take the food. He would go take a bucket, drop the food, and he would, because the oldest brother tried to help out. He's the one that said, don't kill him. He's the one that kind of protected him. So in these days, 3 to 7, 3 to 10, he would always go there. Even after being in a well for 10 days, let's say, right? Not being in a normal situation, Allah had given him so much beauty that the moment this man saw him, he was floored by his beauty. Ya bushra hada ghulam. Oh my God, what a beautiful boy. And for them at that time, this was a huge asset because they could sell it and make some money, right? That's why he was so happy, because, oh, I can sell this person. At times, the greatest blessing can be the greatest challenge. The greatest blessing can be the greatest challenge. We all know that challenges have a silver lining of a blessing in it, right? So if I'm going through something that's challenging, everyone tells me, don't worry, there's a blessing in it. We say blessing in disguise. Have you ever heard the opposite? That every blessing has a challenge in disguise as well. Every blessing has a burden. And the burden that comes with that blessing is something that Allah believes that you can handle. And that's why He gave you that blessing. The greatest blessing of Yusuf alayhi salam, everyone has different blessings. Someone may have the blessing of wealth. Well, Allah knows there's a challenge in wealth as well. There's a big challenge in wealth. And sometimes Allah won't give me wealth because the challenge that comes with it is such that I can handle it. You sit back and ask yourself that, why was my friend given that job and not me? Why was my friend given that, acceptance to that graduate program and not me? We both tried hard, we both worked hard, we both had good grades. Why did he or she get it and not me? Because that blessing that comes with a challenge, that person can handle, and maybe I can't handle it. There is not a blessing in life that doesn't come with a burden. And if you don't know what the burden is, it will swallow us, it will engulf us. The greatest blessing of Yusuf alayhi salam was his beauty. That was his greatest blessing. After being a prophet, his greatest blessing that Allah had given him half the beauty of this world. Half the beauty of this world. That was his greatest blessing. You know what his greatest challenge was? His beauty. Every difficulty that he experienced had to do with his beauty. Sometimes I don't get that blessing because that challenge would break me. And it has a challenge. The greatest blessing of life for us is health. And the greatest challenge is how to preserve your health. Everyone's worried about staying healthy, right? The biggest industry is the health industry, right? Because that's what everyone's worried about. Yusuf alayhi salam, his brothers were jealous of him because he was more beautiful. He got pulled out of normally a kid, you pull him out of the well, yeah, go ahead, man, you're free, go walk, go get out of here. But because he was so beautiful, hada ghulam, they want to sell him. Later on in the story, he's cornered by the wife of the minister. Not because he was smart, because he was beautiful. So your blessing also has a challenge that comes with it. And this is why each blessing needs a muhasabah. Each blessing that you have, we have to be very present-minded and aware of how we're using it. Because that blessing can become a source of difficulty for me in my life. Right? One of the greatest blessings for parents are children. One of the greatest blessings for parents are children. And one of the greatest challenges for parents are also children. Right? Like kids are a headache. Right? But they're also a blessing. You can't live with them, you can't live without them. So in this, we learn that from the story of Yusuf. We learn it, that if Allah is not giving me that blessing right now, it's because the challenge that comes with it, this perspective is key. If Allah is not giving me this blessing right now, and everyone's asking for something. Everyone's asking for something. If you're not asking Allah for something, you have bigger problems. We're all asking Allah for something. Every one of us. If we're not asking for anything of dunya, we should be asking for something in akhirah. We're always asking Allah for something. That's a sign that we are Allah's slaves, that we ask Allah. But if I'm not getting what I'm asking Him, maybe that blessing, yes, it's a blessing, but maybe the challenge that it comes with is something that I'm not ready to handle right now. And that's why Allah is not giving it to me, right? So this is what we understand from Ya bushra hada ghulam wa asarruhu bida'a. They hide Yusuf in their merchandise. What they did was, like how they covered in their caravan, how they covered all of their goods that they were going to sell. They put Yusuf there and they hid him. So they could leave town without Yusuf being noticed. And they headed towards Egypt. And they went to Egypt because Egypt was the economical capital of the world at that time. This is where everyone would go to trade, like New York. That's where the spot was. And then after they leave, well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Wallahu alimun bima ya'malun. Allah is all knowledgeable, all knowing about what they are doing and what they were doing. Allah knows. Like someone could be looking at this story and say, hey, man, what's happening, man? Why is Yusuf not going back to his father? Allah is saying, no, Allahu Aleem. In this surah, the word Aleem, the sifa, and the quality of Aleem is repeated multiple times. The quality of Aleem is repeated multiple times. Actually, in this surah is where Allah says, وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ, the famous verse. That above every knowledgeable person is someone more knowledgeable. It's interesting. Why does Allah use the word Aleem so many times in the surah? Because a person that would be reading the story would actually be thinking like, what's happening here, man? This is getting out of hand. Somewhere, like this story is going wrong. Allah, I'm Aleem, I know what's going on. I know exactly what's going on. None of this is happening without my knowledge. All of it is taking place within my scope of knowledge. The situation that you are in right now, and the situation that I am in right now, the way that we pacify ourselves is to know that Allah is Aleem of it. Allah knows about it. And if Allah knows about it, that means there is khair in it. Allahu Aleem bima ya'malun. Nothing is happening without the knowledge of Allah. لن تطاع إلا بإذنك ولن تعصى إلا بعلمك. We are unable to worship Allah without His permission, and we are unable to sin except that Allah knows of it. لا تحسبن الله غافل عما يعمل الظالمون. Allah says, don't think that I am unaware of what the oppressors are doing. Allahu Aleem. For a person, the fact that Allah is Al-Aleem is the greatest source of mercy for the oppressed. But similarly, the fact that Allah is Aleem is the greatest source of fear for the oppressor. And no one else knows what you're doing, but Allah does know what you're doing. You're taking someone else's rights, Allah is Aleem of it. And if Allah is Aleem of it, you will definitely face the consequences of it either in dunya or akhirah. لا تحسبن الله غافل. It never goes, oppression never goes unnoticed. Allah alimun bima ya'malun. Allah makes it clear to us that I know what's going on in this story. I know you're in the dark, but I know what's going on. Right? And then inshallah we'll stop at this verse. And the next verse talks about how they sell Yusuf alayhi salam. Few lessons that I want to make sure that it's highlighted for us one more time. The first lesson that we spoke about earlier on in the verse today was the fact that they felt like doing it. Letting yourself, like making decisions simply because you feel like doing it will ultimately lead you into a bad situation. There is no way that if I do what I feel like doing every single time that you will not make a mistake. Because our feelings are built through our desires. And our desires are not coming from a space that is supporting us. Our desires are coming from a place that are pulling us back. So if we just do what we feel like doing, that will always challenge us. That's why we seek shura with people. Number two, and never feel like we're too pious that my feelings are always going to be good. No, feelings can take us in different ways. The second point that we learned earlier on in today's session was sabrun jamīl, that we only complain and we are vulnerable in front of Allah. We can be vulnerable in front of people, but not to replace Allah, to supplement it, not to replace it. Right? We can have supplement, but we can't replace Allah because Allah is the source of shifa. And the second quality of sabrun jamīl was our heart will yearn and grieve, but our tongue doesn't say anything against Allah. And the last thing I will say about sabrun jamīl that I said earlier is don't let the situation make you bitter about Allah. Don't let the situation make you bitter about Allah. Becoming bitter about Allah is the biggest loss that I can experience. Becoming bitter about Allah is the biggest loss that I can experience. Wallahu al-musta'anu ala ma tasifun. Know that even in that situation, Allah is the helper for me. And I ended off speaking about the idea that every blessing comes with a challenge. And if that's the reality of life, yes, we can ask for the blessing, but don't be unaware of the challenge that it comes with. When people are trying to get married, the elders always say, it's a blessing, but it's also a challenge. That's every blessing. That's even a blessing like the phone. Even the phone is a challenge. Every blessing will have a challenge. And we need to know what the challenge is so that we can be ready to face it when it comes. May Allah make us amongst those that can continue taking the lessons from this beautiful surah. Inshallah, we'll start with verse number 20 next week. We'll try to do verse 20 and verse 21 next week. Inshallah ta'ala. We'll start at 4 o'clock to 4:10 next week as well. Jazakallah khair. May Allah bless you all. If anyone has any questions.